What up, everybody? Speed Freak YGO here, aka Maximillian Fleischmann. And yesterday I went 7-1 playing Tearlament at the Lexington, Kentucky Regional, hosted by CM Games. And I'm going to show you a deck profile today. All right, so for the deck list, for the deck profile, we're going to start off with the monsters. Start things off with 3 Tearlaments, Cash Tira. This is probably one of the best cards in your deck. It can be interruption during your opponent's turn to try to get things going. If you want to preemptively stop your opponent's turn, if you worry that you can't like break through the board, say like a game 1 or something, no side, and you make that decision. Normally you would never do that, but just a utility that it has is that amongst just milling 3 on summon during your turn, for example, she helps with all the cards that got limited to our list. She kind of fills in those spots. Speaking of which, we got Sheeran, Merly, and Havnus. They fuse engrave. Normally, like, you don't want to send this. You don't want to send the Merly off like a Rhino Heart because you have the Sprin line that you could theoretically go into later in your play. This you normally search off of Planet. This is a great playmaker. And this normally is like your first target that you dump during like your opening turn, for example. Next we have the 2 Rhino Hearts. He's a good to mill once, or he's good to have in your hand about once. Normally you just want to mill him. We don't really have like a specified normal summon, but this is like honorary him and Diviner. That's it for the tier monsters there. Next we'll go into the Ishizus. Not too much to explain here, other than maybe like just some niche plays. Like with Tier Cash, for example, milling one of these can like change drastically like your opponent's turn. Obviously, milling one of these starts your turn on their turn, but also in general, mill 5, shuffle 3. Tier's the best deck that can possibly utilize these cards. I'd say like the only real deck that does that. Next, we'll go into the Danger package. We got 2 Nessie. It's a level 7, which matters for Barone, and it's a Aqua, which matters for Garura. And then to complement the Nessies, we have the Mothman. Say if they snipe your Nessie from hand when you activate its effect, search this. Even if they snipe this, you will still be able to get a draw and then a discard, which can be like an Agito or a Trivicarma. It helps cycle the hand a bit. We got the Mally package. If you mill 1, you can send the other. That's also level 6 for Beatrice. So like Garura, and this is normally your way into Beatrice. Nightsword Serpent. If it's sent to grave by card effect, it specials itself, and it's a water, which matters for Bahamut Shark. This can be, I know it doesn't seem like a very impressive card, but this can be like the target for Beatrice, for example. This way, you can get a guaranteed Bahamut plus Toad, which is not only Toad, but a link fodder for like an IP, or I'm sorry, an SP later on throughout the turn. Next, we have the Diviner of the Herald. Normally, you can special this, say, off like a Cross Sheep, and then when you use its effect, it also becomes a 6 for Beatrice. Sometimes, though, if your hand's cracked, you can normal summon this, and it'll auto-eat and negate, and then it can lead into a Sprin line because it gets negated, for example, and you still have the cards in hand that you can activate. Great card. Next is Beast. Only Beast, no Winda, no Hellshall. Draws a card when it goes to grave, so it's just good value. Next, we have the 2 that we want to see in grave, more so than in hand. This one is like the main brick of the deck. You don't really want to draw it at all. This you can draw and it still has utility. Set a card, this pops it, special itself. It's a 6, Beatrice, you know what I mean? This, when they're targeting a level 4, you special it out, and then you use Tier Cash or Nessie, for example. Send it back to your deck and Synchro for a Barone. Barone is great, obviously a great thing to end on with the rest of the board. Next, your 3 hand traps, 3 Droll. We play an Imperm, you'll see that later on. So it's 3 Imperm Droll. For our spells, we got 3 planets. Adds a card, gives tier names and fusions 500. And when a tier name's put back into the deck, it pops a card on field. Great way to trigger your own cards if you need turn 1, like hitting a Kaleido Heart to send like a Scream or a Heartbeat to add a trap from either end, or just to send a fusion. Anyway, great card, of course. Next, we have 2 Scream. Scream mills 3 on summon. Make sure your opponent's monsters go down by 5, but primarily use it for your mill 3 and the fact that it fetches you a trap when it goes to grave. Heartbeat. It's a great card just to have. You can search it if you need it. Well, not in this build, you can't. Geez, I was thinking the Rev Synchron build Avatars, but in this build, the primary use is sending it to grave to get the trap back. If you draw it, it can be useful. You can send it off your Kaleido Heart to get a trap if you mill both traps. Meta Noise added a banished trap back, but we don't play that in this one because flipping a card is as great as it was in cash format. Next, we have our 3 Super Polys. This card says your opponent can't respond to it, and there's good Super Poly targets in our extra deck that are also generic playmakers for our deck, so it works extra good in this build. Next, we have a Foolish Burial Goods. Since Trivy, if Trivy's already been used, since Sullic or, Scream, Foolish Burial. I like Foolish Burial because you can really sculpt a turn around it using it first or using it last, depending on what your hand's looking like. It can really help you dig, like if you just need play starters, send in a Guido Prey, or you can send like exactly Night Sword Serpent when you have like a Rhino Heart and no more ways to mill, and you can just send the Serpent, make Toad. Next for our traps, we got 1 Imperm, hit Rescue Race to set 4. That's really like the main thing for this. Like it just hits or clears an established board. Like when you go second, you hold on to it, hit the thing you really don't want. Say for against like Unchained, you just hit the one that prevents your summons, and then it takes out half the board, by itself. Trivia Karma, you want it engraved so you can banish it to add any name. And then 2 Sullic, just Sullic. Like I said, no Meta Noise in this one. 2 copies is fine. 1 to set, 1 to use to search. Next, we'll go into the extra deck. We'll start off with the 2 Kaleido Heart. 2 Kaleido Heart because it gets banished a lot. It's like people know it's like a staple or like a pillar in your plays. It's very important. I want to match off having the second one. Your opponent banishes 1 and off like a crow, and they feel like they've like gotten rid of it for the entire game. This comes out, they're terrified of the second one. This gets you plays. This gets you interruptions, and it recurs itself more so than Rokolos does even. This is a generic Super Poly target, but also it is something you can establish in your plays on your opening turn, and is a negate. Great card, makes things level 1. That matters a lot of times. Super Poly targets that are also playmakers include Garura and Mud Dragon. Normally you want to make this go into a Beatrice, and that way you can dump anything on Beatrice and then draw off this. I've been playing this build for about a week, and I've missed a couple Garura draws, and that was like one of my biggest misplays in the events, was just being like, oops, on that, because that's so much value. You want to cycle that every turn. That's advantage that you gain. This turns off so many targeting effects. I love it because you can have this go Rhino Heart. Rhino Heart's protected. Say if you send a fusion, and then as Chainlink, Chainlink 1 would be the fuse. Chainlink 2 is this. Turn itself into any attribute that you're about to make off the fusion. Say, for example, you're making a Kaleido Heart, so you make a dark. That way the Kaleido Heart's going to resolve the bounce effect. So it can like play around 2 traps, or 2 hand traps, or 2 interruptions, for example. This I never made, but it was just an idea for like SP plus Barone. There's a lot of decks are making that. Beatrice is Beatrice. I don't think she's long for this world again. 2 level 6s, you get to send any card from your deck to your grave as a quick effect. So once during your turn, once during your opponent's turn. This can also send like Night Sword Serpent, for example, or it can send like a Trivia Karma if you really just need a field spell or something like that. It gets you whatever you want in the deck. It's you really want to make this every game. Dweller I didn't make because I didn't see the mirror once, but Dweller's Dweller. Toad, Bahamut. Like I said, Rhino Heart, Night Sword makes this makes this, and then this becomes link fodder for SP Little Knight normally. She's a new addition to the deck. This card's way better than I thought it could be for the deck. Got me back on links, seeing GGYGO's video on that. Then we'll play the rest of the generic links. We got Cross Sheet, Dark, and then Sprint. This is great because it guarantees you a fusion in your deck as long as you can make bodies, and that's guaranteed fusion. You know what I mean? Cross Sheet gets you back link material or like Diviner specifically, and then that can equate to a Beatrice line with making a 6 off of a 4, or a 4 or lower, which is the 2. Dark gets you into Sprint a lot during like grind games, or early games where your opponent has like cards engraved. Great way to get going, or it can make a SP that will be banishing on summon because you go this special, make it with this, and because it's a link, SP gets to banish on summon. And then one Barone, it's our one Synchro in the deck. It's says negate, Barone's Barone, very good card. Great that we can utilize it in tier. Next for the side deck, we got the trio, 2 Lightning Storm, 1 Harpy's Duster. Limited to 2, limited to 1, that makes 3. It's a playset of a card that basically says wipe spells and traps. I've never used this card, so I've played it competitively really for the front row. It's only always been for the back row. I saw this card twice. This was definitely the most impactful side card I had. It wiped 4 off Rescue Ace, and it wiped a Judgment on a Labyrinth player that had 2 trap cards, and they were dead. I love you, Eric. Sorry about that. Next, 3 Forbidden Droplets. In GGYGO's profile, the difference was primarily this versus 3 Xyz Encore. I thought Xyz Encore is a little too targeted for the event that I was going to. I didn't think it was going to be so much Dweller or so much Pearly specifically. This gets rid of 2 interactions, for example, is enough most of the time. Like you set a card down, you discard 1 in this, and then you can start playing your turn for free. Stops Dweller specifically, really fast. It's a great card that you can play it. Discarding isn't the best in this deck, but sometimes it's worth it. We got 1 Crime. This card really didn't perform for me too much. Normally in tier, if it's not specifically Dark Ruler, which we have counterplays with Sullick, we don't have to worry about those crazy board breakers going second because we'll have a Barone plus a Toad. So that's 2 Omnis, so if they push a Lightning Storm, you negate it. If they push an Evenly Match, you negate it. If they have the second one, you can negate it, and then you still keep playing. They're down those cards. Dark Ruler is the only thing I'd really ever want to stop with this. But then at that point, you just go Sullick the Kaleido Heart, and then you get to start playing again during their turn. So it doesn't really matter too much. The investment it's a weird setup, even though if you draw 2, normally you'll have a monster, but not always. So it's a good card. It's searchable. Then we go 2, there can be only 1. I think this is the best Floodgate that you can play right now, and this is the best Floodgate that tier can play. Only 2, because 3 is a little bricky. It doesn't do anything in grave. You just kind of want to see it. If you're going first, you should already be winning. But this kind of seals the deal against a lot of matchups that are, like Unchained, for example, or Sprite sometimes. You can just catch them. Here's the other 2 Imperm to fill out if I want to really just stop Rescue Ace setting 4. Primarily, I didn't really see too much utility for it other than it just being a generic hand trap that didn't cost anything. Really just want to stop that set 4 because I was scared of Rescue Ace going into this event. I had not gotten as much practice with it as I'd liked. Next, 3 Lancia. This also is against Rescue Ace, but primarily is good against Flu, because I hate playing against Flu. I just don't want to deal with it. So this card really stops their deck in their tracks, and you get to play, I saw it once, and it got negated. And then 1 Scatter Shot for time. This didn't do anything the entire event, but I did side it because I was worried about it a couple of times. It would have been great if I milled it. Didn't matter in the long run. Only loss was not going into time, so you don't have to run it. So after you've seen the deck profile, I wanted to explain my matchups for the day. I think I had a really hearty list of a lot of diverse decks. Round 1, I played Dynamorphia. It was a die roll with metal dice that went 10, 10, 11, 3. It was weird. He was a weird guy. He tried activating Dynamorphia traps from Ketragina that weren't in grave because I had bounced the Ketragina. He tried using the trap that fuses from field and such to make the Rexstrum, which is completely illegal. People sort of talked to me about him afterwards. I won't say too much about it, but I did not enjoy playing him because I had to watch him. If you're playing Dynamorphia, know what your cards do. Please don't try to cheat people because we're going to read your cards. And do not be mad when you lose in time because you're playing Dynamorphia. Anyway, next I played Sprite. It was my good friend Braden. His deck just didn't perform very well at the moment for him, and my deck capitalized on it. I love Braden. He's a great guy. Next I played my buddy Alex Allen playing Pearly. I respect Alex also very much. I think I got it in time. It was a great game. It was grindy. Next we went to Evil Twin Sprite. Super Poly underperformed in that matchup. I drew it a couple times, and like I know it should sound really good, but it just wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. It was kind of hard. We went to game 3. I still got that one. Next, we went to Vanadium against actually Austin Garcia, another person that I know. It was cool. I controlled the grave a little bit too much, I think, on top of just having the regular tier plays for him to be able to play through it. He never really got to do like a full board. Next, we lost to Joseph Gold playing Unchained, another person that I fucking know. Joseph Gold won the event undefeated playing Unchained. Good job. Great pilot. My deck shat on me, and we recognized one misplay that I made and identified it for later because I was thinking too far ahead to where the point where I missed a Barone plus Scream activation with a Rhino on field that could have been, and I went into a line that instead just made a Kaleido Heart because I had a really bad hand, and I really just needed like a good monster plus Scream, but I could have had Barone, Rhino Heart plus Scream. It would have changed what I milled off the Scream that hit later on, so it's really hard to tell if it would have been better per se, but of course, you know, you could have potentially still went to the Kaleido Heart later. We talked about it. He's a great guy. And next was Labyrinth against Eric, somebody else I actually know. Shouts out to Eric. Sorry, buddy. I drew a Lightning Storm against Labyrinth game 2. I went first game 1, set up board. They auto-scoop game 2. They set 3. None of them were a Labyrinth card. I stormed. They did Judgment. And then I played 3 cards. And, you know, that's 4,000 damage in Tearlaments when you have, like, a planet up. Next was Rescue Ace. And my deck really performed well against this round. Both the times I 2-0'd him. Respectfully, it was good games. But both the times I drew my hand, I was like, oh my god, like how can I lose? You know what I mean? They would include stuff like Sheeran Kelbeck Planet was like one of my openers. And then I had like Lightning Storm a game 2 against his set 4. And it's like, sorry. You know what I mean? But I was very happy to win that. That secured my 7-1, getting me 2nd place at the regional. I love this deck. I have another deck list I'd love to show you guys sometime. It's a Synchro variant, including, what's the name? Revolution Synchron, and tunings and stuff like that, that takes advantage of Amataris and the 7 and 8 lines into him. Amataris searches Field Spell or Scream, searches anything with Visas in the name, which is every single tier, spell, and trap. It can play through a lot of hand traps. Also, I think it's a little less consistent than this build because in that build I was playing Beast King of the Swamp as a level 4 generic thing that you can put on field to make a 7 with. But I would love to show you guys that deck list. Also, feel free to check out some of my reviews that I have on like accessories or other deck lists that I have up on my channel. I'd like to give some shouts out to some homies that I can mention off the top of my head. Shouts out to Harley for putting me on this deck list. He sent me the link to GGYGO's video that got me off Synchro tier. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I believe his name's, no, I'm not even going to name drop him, but it's GGYGO on YouTube. It's his deck list primarily from the ground up, and it was the first time really taking somebody else's word to try something that somebody else really made, and it helped knock out some things I think Tearlament players are stuck on, such as Beast King of the Swamp, for example, or King of the Swamp, and playing stuff like that, like the fusion substitutes. I think when you play 2 or 3 of them, it just makes your deck worse if you have a functioning deck in front of you that does not require them. They don't do anything, you know what I mean? They're just substitutes. Shouts out to him. Shouts out to Matt Brown, who's helped me record this video all day. Great guy, friend of like 10 years now. Shouts out to Austin, Tyler, Alex Llewellyn, big ups to Josh Payne for judging the event. Nice to see you as a judge now. Shouts out to everybody in Owensboro, Lexington, Evansville, Henderson, all the people I know and fuck with, Frankfurt, Louisville. Shouts out Clifton. Shouts out Joe Gold, you did great. The 2-0 scrape I was really worried about, but afterwards I wasn't too worried about it going to the next round because I was like, if we lose that one and the deck does that once and it's against an opponent like Joe Gold, we're golden. So Joe Gold got first. I got silver on that one. Yeah, I appreciate like all my friends and people that support me for this. Yeah, see you at the next one.